It's the most wonderful time of the day. Welcome to the Sweat, people of the internet, alongside Jesse Cofield. I'm Emerson Latzia. We're not here for a long time today, just a good time. Start us off, JC.
Say hello to our two football analysts, DK Live's Reid Fowler and Geoff Ulrich. Looking forward to getting those showdown picks in around 20 minutes from now. But first, it's NFL Spin Move.
All right, Reid. Nick Foles works his magic again Sunday night, leading the Eagles to an upset win over the heavily favored Rams. Put up only 10 DK fantasy points, so what are the chances he can hit 15-plus DK points and knock off the Texans on Sunday? Go.
Yeah, I mean, the chances are better than most, right? I know Foles is Jeff's boy, so I'm just going to provide the contrarian play here, the contrarian observation of her perspective of what could potentially happen. He's meeting the Houston Texans defense, top 10 in DVOA, much better against the run, obviously, than the pass. And if we look at Nick Foles, his floor is so low. Like in the 4 games or so that he started over the last couple of years, obviously making that Super Bowl and that playoff run to the first couple of games, he put up 6 and 9 points up against an Atlanta defense that we know now in that secondary is not that good, right? And so Foles does have the capability of doing so. I think this is going to be close in terms of hitting that DK fantasy point number of 15. But to take on the Texans, who are one of the hottest teams right now, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he doesn't win, but he comes close to that number.
All right, Jeff, Reid said it best. He is your boy, Nick Foles, and he's only getting cost.
Taking the contrarian approach against BDN.
And he's only
how'd that work out for everyone last year in the playoffs?
4,700 here, dude. 4,700.
We talked about the Texans last week, and everyone laughed at me when they said, I think Sam Darnold might go over 20 fantasy points, DK points, for the first time all year. What did he do? He put up 21. So, look, this is a Texans defense. They're very good against the run. They don't have a good secondary. They funnel teams towards the pass. I think the same thing is going to happen here. Opposing quarterbacks over the last 4 games against the Houston Texans, averaging 338 yards through the air. Eagles have a ton of good receivers. They got some tight ends. I think they're going to work it. Look, he might turn the ball over a couple times. He's a little rusty, okay? He's been on the bench all year. But as far as hitting over 15 fantasy points, yeah, I definitely think he can achieve that.
Guys, the Vikings score 41 points in their first game with their new offensive coordinator. The early total for their Week 16 matchup in Detroit is 43.5. Is that an easy over for this refreshed Vikings offense, Geoff?
I don't think so. Look, Detroit is just death. It's just death to fun as far as like offensive football. 6 of the last 8 games have been well under this total, 43.5. They've gone over a couple times, but they've kind of just, they got in a shootout against Chicago, and they scored some garbage time points. And then you take Minnesota. Yeah, they had the offensive explosion, but the 1-week vacation kind of with the new OC is over. They're going to be on the road here where they've been significantly worse all season. I like the under a lot in this game. Again, it's just Detroit plays pace down. Their defense is playing better. Definitely like the under for that total.
Reid, what do you think? You think it goes over here?
No, I agree with Jeff in that spot, especially that last point that he made. The Vikings are much better at home and much worse on the road. And if you look at the Lions of the last 4 games, only averaging 15 points in that contest. Like I thought they could put together a couple of drives to beat the Bills. They almost did it. There were some bonehead penalties towards the end of the game. Didn't let Stafford come back, which he probably wouldn't have, but it would have been nice to see. But yeah, both of these teams, right? You don't really trust Kirk Cousins on the road. That Vikings defense is playing better, but again, on the road, especially with the Lions too, just not playing up to snuff, not really playing. We're probably not going to see Kerryon Johnson either for that team. It's really only Kenny Golladay, and I don't think they can score, so I'm going to say under.
All right, guys, the Patriots have lost back-to-back games in December for the first time since 2002. I was still in high school.
I was 12.
Yeah, you were. Yet they're still favored by 12.5 at home against the Bills in Week 16. How do you feel about New England covering, Reid?
Man, this one's tough. I'm gonna say that they do. I don't like going these high totals, right? These 12, 13, these double digits. I don't really like saying that these teams cover. And look at the Patriots. They've been one of these teams that a tale of two cities, on the road and on the home, kind of like what we just talked about with the Vikings. Patriots are much better at home. I will throw out some stats here, though. Division games 3-1. Margin of victory is about 15 in those division games against the spread. As home favorites, 5-1. And then that margin of victory is around 14 points. And now you get a Bills team that they've handed losses. 8 of the last 10 the Patriots have won against the Bills. I will say this, though. Josh Allen is someone that I didn't really believe in last week. He did it again. Patriots are giving up the 8th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks. If this number comes down a little bit, which I think it will towards the middle of this week, I'm going to like it a lot more. But I'm just going to say chase this. I'm going to say they do cover.
Wow, Geoff, what do you think? Josh Allen and the Bills, can they come in and cover here?
I'm not going to be all wishy-washy like Reid. I really like this spot for the Patriots. Just look at their season. They've been terrible on the road, but they have big wins at home. I mean, they've covered against the Vikings, the Packers. They beat the Texans. These are quality wins they're getting. They beat the Chiefs at home. This is a team that bounces back well when they go back to Foxborough. Coming off 2 losses, the last time they did that this season at home, they absolutely smashed another division opponent, Miami, who quite frankly is better than the Bills. Buffalo is coming in with no running backs. Yes, they have Josh Allen. All the Patriots have to do is stop Josh Allen, though, because there's really nothing else that they can attack them with. I think the Patriots offense gets on target here. I really like this. And like Reid said, if this number does go down, which it very could, because people, again, coming off 2 losses might be down on the Patriots, I think this is a really, really good spot to take the points with New England.
All right, you two hang tight, please, because right after NBA Pick and Roll with Alex and Matt, we're going to need those Monday Night Showdown picks.
Hey, I'm Adam Kaufman with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Let's talk pucks, all right? Light 5-game slate tonight, but there are definitely guys worth your attention. At forward, William Karlsson's price up $1,100 to $6,100 since the end of November, but the Golden Knights center has scored 4 goals his last 4 games, and he is finally starting to look like the player he was last year. He is averaging nearly 5 DK points during this hot streak. Vegas in Columbus tonight. Senators Thomas Chabot, cheap on the blue line, $5,700. Remember, this is a guy usually priced in the $6K range, $6,500 even. He's a little boomer bust, we know that, but still is averaging north of 4 fantasy points his last 5 games, and he has got the Predators tonight. And in net, another Ottawa option, Craig Anderson. Cheapest on the slate at $6,900. Sends her home, Preds, on the road. They've dropped 6 straight. He has posted a .224 goals against average and a .931 save percentage in his last 7 starts. Both numbers considerably better than his season totals. But in the spirit of keeping you clued in, Anderson did lose 3-1 in Nashville last Tuesday. Happy hunting.
All right, it's the only basketball segment in tonight's show, quality over quantity, so let's make it count, boys. Good evening to DK Live's Alex Rikleen and Action Matt Lamarca of the Action Network.
It's NBA Pick and Roll, choosing between 2 options at each position on tonight's 8-game slate. Starting with 2 guys facing off who were making headlines a lot this offseason, but have run into a tough stretch over the last few games.
Indeed.
DeMar DeRozan hasn't eclipsed 32 fantasy points in any of his last 3 games. He'll cost you $8,100. Then there's Jimmy Butler, who has battled a groin strain but returned to action on Sunday. He'll run you $7,400. So who you looking at? Who you like, Matt?
I actually think this is a pretty nice opportunity to buy low on DeRozan. He has struggled recently, like you said, but there's no reason not to expect a bounce back from him. He's coming off 37 minutes in his last game. He still posted a usage rate of 38.5% in that contest. He just hasn't shot the ball well. And we know DeRozan, he's one of the best scorers in the league. I fully expect him to bounce back and see some regression in his shooting department. I think that makes him a steal at his current salary. This is also a nice pace-up spot for the Spurs. Philly has played at the 8th fastest pace this season, so I think overall this is a good spot for him.
Do you agree, Alex, or maybe you want to go with Butler coming off that groin injury?
Yeah, I got to disagree here. I think one of the biggest differences in this matchup is that DeMar DeRozan has to be guarded by Jimmy Butler, while Jimmy Butler gets to be guarded by DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan is a shooter, and shooters go through streaks. That's a pretty normal thing, but his current streak is 4 games under 40% from the field. I agree that he'll bounce back out of that at some point, but I'm not sure I'm willing to bet that against one of the better defensive lineups in the league, it's going to be tonight.
All right, Devin Booker returning to form after a 6-game absence, posting nearly 48 points on Saturday night for Phoenix. You'll have to fork out $8,000 for him at New York, or you can treat yourself and drop $9,900 on Steph Curry at home against the Grizz. Alex?
I like Devin Booker. I don't want to pay $2,000 more to face the slowest defense in the league and a pretty good defense at that. Hamstring injuries can be a little concerning, but Booker didn't miss a beat in his first game back, so I don't know why we would expect anything to emerge on the second night. I think the savings are absolutely worth it, especially since they get me out of facing the Grizz.
Matt, you going Booker, or are you going to be cooking with Curry?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of either. I think that they're both a little bit overpriced right now, but Booker undoubtedly has the edge in matchup. I mean, the Grizzlies are basically the worst team possible for DFS. They play at the slowest pace in the league, and they're sixth in defensive efficiency. So Curry can obviously go off against anyone, but I just don't feel the need to pay up, almost 10K for him. Booker, much friendlier matchup against the Knicks. They're just 29th in defensive efficiency. So if I have to go with one of the two, he's the guy.
All right, to the big men, Karl Anthony Towns costs an even 10K as the T-Wolves host the Kings. Are you going with Cat, or will you save yourself $700 with Andre Drummond as his Pistons host the Bucks? Matt, take it away.
Yeah, this is a close one, but I'm going to go with Karl Anthony Towns. Really nice spot against the Kings. They've played at the second fastest pace this season, and they've struggled against opposing centers for most of the year. Timberwolves also potentially going to be without Jeff Teague. He's questionable at the moment. If he's ruled out, Towns would see a nice increase in usage rate potentially. So I think of the two, he is the way that I'm leaning here.
Alex, I saw you nodding. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Anytime I'm looking at Drummond, the first place I look is the opponent rebound percentage. The Bucks have one of the best opponent rebound or one of the best their rebound percentages in the league, i.e. the Bucks get a lot of the available rebounds, and it's even better amongst Bucks starters. On the flip side, Karl Anthony Towns goes against the Kings, and the Kings are one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. So you got a big advantage there. Bucks defense is much better than the Kings. I wish I don't love the price difference. It's enough to make me second guess myself, but I'm definitely going Cat here.
And because helping save you money is one of the many goals we have here at DraftKings, let's talk value, Alex. Looking at options under 7K here. So you have Danilo Gallinari, puts up over 42 fantasy points for the Clippers in his last outing. Is he worth 6,600 against the Blazers, or would you rather roster Bulls forward Lauri Markkanen for $100 less, also coming off a 40-plus point effort? Chicago, by the way, on the road tonight at OKC.
I don't mind the price for Danilo Gallinari, but I would rather Lauri Markkanen. Other than the weird game that, calls the Bulls to collapse in on themselves, he's been playing a ton of minutes and doing well since his return from injury. And I'm a little overly invested in my own season-long fantasy roster, so I'm trying to really buy in and believe in Lauri Markkanen. But he's got the kind of game that plays well against Steven Adams.
Matt, who will return value on their valuable price?
Yeah, I think Lauri Markkanen's a really strong play. He's coming off 36 and a half minutes in his last game. That's his highest mark since he's returned from injury. 1.04 DraftKings points per minute this season, and that's increased to 1.11 with Zach LaVine off the floor. LaVine is going to miss tonight's contest. He's out for an extended period of time. The only real concern is if the Bulls can keep this game competitive. They are 13-point underdogs, so if it blows out, that could obviously affect Lowry's minutes. But I think 6,500 is just a really fair price for him. I would expect him to be, well into the 7Ks by next week.
All right, gentlemen, slate-approved pick time. So who's your lock tonight, Matt?
I'm going cheap here. I think Nemanja Bjelica for the Kings is pretty much a lock for me. He's increased virtually every metric with Marvin Bagley and Iman Shumpert off the court this season. Both guys will be out of the lineup tonight. He's scored at least 40 DraftKings points in 2 of his past 3 games. So the fact that you can get him at 4,400 is a steal.
Alex, slate approved.
I want to go with Kevin Knox here against the Suns. The Suns are Lord knows what's going on, but that's a sort of permanent, that's an evergreen tweet right there. 5,700, he's really cheap. And I'm seeing a lot of parallels in his breakout to some of the early mid-season breakouts we've seen from late lottery picks of previous years, similar to kind of Donovan Mitchell. Obviously, they have different games, but in terms of the way they've broken out, in terms of struggled and then sort of flirted with a couple of good games and then starts putting together a string of good games, it's a pattern we've seen before, and I think Knox is starting to turn into the player we hoped he would be this summer.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Monday Night Football picks with Reid and Geoff are coming up right after Tyler Sullivan explains how you can help one of DK's very own win some hardware.
Our own Pat Mayo is up for not one, but 2 FSTA awards. Congrats to him, but he needs your help. Fan voting is open. Just search FSTA 2018 voting and help Mayo bring home some hardware. And in the meantime, here's a look at the nominated video from the NFL fan experience.
First event we're doing at the Super Bowl experience is the Hail Mary throwing accuracy. 3 bins behind us, each worth a different set of points. Let's see who wins. Not even close? Is that your shot at the long one or not?
It's not. Get in.
Oh, Von Miller says get out.
Oh no.
That's going kind of close. How would you say you did exactly with your 0 points?
As badly as you could do.
Oh, that's good.
See, this game is
That's
rigged.
good. 3-0 already. That's good. And 6-0. It's a 1-0 me, but we're going to go on to the kicking game, which Jim seems to think he's going to win. Let's see.
Get some good height on it.
Bit left. Now I see you aimed left again.
And that's why they don't kick barefoot anymore.
We're gonna do this right through. I got the feeling.
Oh, come on. Really?
Bask in the glory. All right, it's come to this, the final event. I'm up 2-0 here, but I'll give Tim a chance to beat me in the 40-yard dash. If you straight up beat me, you win the entire competition.
You're leaving a second and a half.
Second and a half in the 40-yard dash?
Yeah.
There's 40 yards we're talking about.
I'm aware.
Here. I'll take it.
Oh. 5.24, that's fast.
Yeah, we're done with the 40-yard dash. The big winner, Pat Mayo. That's it for Mayo and Cust from the Super Bowl experience. Stay tuned to DK Live all week for the latest news, analysis, and interviews.
And now for the moment everybody's been waiting for.
Yes.
Monday Night Showdown picks are finally here.
And so is Reid Fowler and Geoff Ulrich. We want your top choices for tonight's Monday Night Football Showdown between the Saints and the Panthers. Let's start with your captain's pick. Reid, hit me with it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Cam Newton here. I know he hasn't been someone that we've trusted of late. Obviously, the Panthers losing 5 straight, wherever their losing streak is. I think he bounced back. I think he has a big game here. I still think they're going to have some trouble with the Saints, but again, you want to attack this Saints, the secondary, and obviously the weaker part of their defense, the run defense, really strong. Against wide receiver 1s and 2s per DVOA, they rank an average about 26, so not good in that secondary. And the Saints, in terms of what they're doing for opposing quarterbacks, are giving up the most DK fantasy points. So he'd be Cam Newton at 15K for my captain.
Geoff, who's worth 1.5 times the salary in your opinion?
Well, I can't hate that pick because I'm going to pick one of Cam's receivers for mine. I like Curtis Samuel, and you know, everything considered, you look at the Panthers wide receiver position right now. Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore, similar players. I actually like the upside with Samuel a little bit better, but Samuel's cheaper. He's played 88%, 92% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. He's seen 19 targets over the last 2 games. He is in a full-time role now. He's not the gadget player he was mid-season, so people need to start viewing him as a real option, as like the number 1 or the 1B target for Cam Newton. And I think in this game against the Saints, where you're going up against a defense that's very good at limiting opposing running backs, you want to target the wide receivers. I mean, the Saints have added to their secondary, but they're still bottom of the league in terms of allowing DK points per game to opposing wide receivers, and they move Samuel around a lot. I really do like the spot for him. I think he's a great captain's pick.
Geoff, can you please help the people at home find some value on this slate?
Oh, yeah. I'm going real value here. None of this wimpy, like, $4,000 player. Let's go with Dan Arnold. I don't even know if Dan Arnold's going to be active tonight. So, first of all, make sure Dan Arnold's active before you check, because he wasn't active last week. It was a wet field. They don't like him for a blocking, but Weather's supposed to be good in Carolina. I think he's going to be active. Now, if he is inactive, just play Ben Watson. But Dan Arnold's $600. The Saints have been throwing to him when he's been out there, caught 4 catches and a touchdown a couple weeks ago. And Carolina's not good at covering tight ends. So if Arnold's active, I expect him to see some targets in the pass game. Could really pay off at that price. Like I said, check if he's active. If not, I think Ben Watson becomes a better play.
Disclaimer, we will check if he's active. Reid, we just got some serious value from Geoff. Let's try to top that.
Yeah, make sure that you check that he's active just to make sure we hammer that point home. I like that because the Saints, right? We saw in that one game where Drew Brees threw it to a couple of no-names that we had no idea were playing and no one started. So good pick there because Panthers do give up about the 6th most. But I'm going to tight on the other side. Ian Thomas, a guy who saw, I know I'm going to be wimpy. He's about 4.8 or in that mid-K or that mid-4 range. In terms of salary. But look, this guy is someone that Cam Newton is targeting, whether it be his injury, that he has to bring that depth of target back a little bit. Ian Thomas is a guy that's been targeted quite a bit in this offense. Like the Saints don't give up a ton of points over the season, but if you look at per DVOA, they're 30th, giving up about 45 yards to opposing tight ends. If it is a case where Cam can't pass the ball down the field and he can't get it to those guys like Curtis Samuel, for those long plays, those DJ Moores, I think Ian Thomas has a decent game.
Reid, speaking of the Saints and points, they are 6-point road favorites. Do they cover tonight?
This one's tough. I think they do. I mean, 4-1 as away favorites. Like their margin of victory in these spots is about 14.6, and their plus minus against the spread again in these games where they're home favorites is 9 points. We have seen that Carolina has had trouble on defense, a defense that we didn't think coming into the season would have these issues. Having said that, yes, they are at home, but I still like the Saints in this spot. I do think it is a high-scoring game, which I know is the next question that we'll get to. But I still think the Saints cover here.
You think the Saints cover, Geoff?
I don't. I like Carolina in this spot, especially if the line gets up to +6. Look, everyone's talking about Carolina coming in here on a 5-game losing streak, but 4 of those 5 games have been on the road, and it's kind of like the Patriots. This has just been a very good home team and a pretty bad road team. So, you know, obviously this is a home game tonight. It's kind of a must-win if they want to even have a chance at making the playoffs. And it's a divisional opponent, someone they're familiar with. And look, New Orleans hasn't really been playing that well. I mean, they lost to Dallas. They were actually trailing Tampa Bay at halftime and getting beat pretty good before a couple fluke plays got them, to a pretty good cover in that game. But I'm not that impressed by New Orleans coming into this game the last couple of weeks. I still think they're the better team. But as far as 6 points, no, I'll take the 6 points with Carolina at home.
Hey, Geoff, the point total is 50. Does it go over or under?
Yeah, again, I think you got to look at these two defenses and just the trend, it seems like, because we're heading into week 15 here and games are, just not really going the way people think. I'm going to take the under. I don't really like this. This is a total I'm not really high on either way, but I will take the under here. I think these are two better defenses. I think Carolina playing defense at home, they're more likely to limit the New Orleans offense to a slower day. Obviously, the Saints defense has been playing really well too. So I like kind of like a 25-20, 24-20 game. I'll take the under. Again, not really my favorite play of the day though.
Reid, you gonna go under too?
Yeah, this is a really good number in terms of setting the book here. Look, 50 is tough, and when you look at where that's going, I think Geoff's right in terms of where that game is going to finish here. But it's really like kind of what we wanted this potentially. I do think this has it could have shoot-up potential if Carolina's defense goes back to trend and doesn't play that well, and then Cam has to play catch-up. But I think Geoff's right here. I think these defenses do step up. We see these home defenses, especially in these primetime games, and Carolina at home a lot better. So I'm going to say under. That this number is just right, but more towards the under here.
All right. Excellent work, you two. No sign of any Monday blues from either one of you, but that's likely because they're talking with us.
Yeah, we're so great. And that's our show, folks. I'm Jesse. He's Emerson. And this show that we host, The Sweat, will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. And you can watch on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and the DK Live app. So we'll see you then.